Alright, I'm on hole number 2 of the Silver State Tournament. I'm in the opening round of the Ricky Division. I'm in my 99 account, so I've got some low-level clubs here. I've got some Tour 4 clubs. Let's pop that off. And let's see if we can get to the right page. I'm going slow today. I'm playing with my stylus in my right hand, and my thumb is cut, and I got chem burns on 4 of my fingers. So I'm trying to hold it with the side of my hand here. Alright, this hole right here is not easy with lower level stuff, but you can get it done with your wood. And I'm going to take the wood that's got the most backspin, which is my big dog. 44. I got more backspin in my Viper. I do have more backspin in my Viper. I got a little more ball guide. Let's compare those two. 44, 51. I'm going to take my Viper. That gives me 5 bars of backspin. Alright. I'm going to switch that. I'm going to switch this back up in this bag. And I'm going to find a bag that's already got a Viper in it. And I'm going to take a nav. Cut that wind down as much as I can. Now what I found on this hole is I'm going to do a full wind adjustment, which with a Viper is 1.9 per ring. And I'm going to add on 10% to the wind. Alright, so let's get up in my Viper and put on all the backspin. And get up into this area. It's 1 point, that's going to be 4, so it's a little over 2 rings. Just a smidget. Try and hit it perfect. Hitting it perfect. See if I can catch that rough and ride right down into the hole. Get in the hole! Get in the hole! Not quite enough of a wind adjustment, but close. So I did, it was 3.6, so that's basically 0.36, so that would put me at 3.96, so that was 4. And that club hits 1.9 per ring, so 2 rings is 3.8. And so I went just a little bit over 2 rings and was a little bit off, so possibly a 20% wind adjustment, and that would have put me right on. I'm going to change that to a 20% wind adjustment. And actually, I think that might be exactly right. Now, I'll tell you something about the wind adjustments. I talked about this in my upper level account when I was on this hole, and I can't remember if I did it on the front or the back side, but these wind adjustments, when you're doing, here's what's funny about the wind adjustments. So if you watch other people's videos about wind adjustments, they'll give you a number. So I think on this hole right here, Tommy said 40% wind adjustment. And if you think about how much higher the tee box is from the pin, from the flag, and you know it's higher because you can't scroll way down and actually get onto your ring set when you're doing it. So you're way up there. You're up here when you're on the tee box, and the pin is way down here. So you're hitting way downhill. So a 40% sounds reasonable. So you go out there and you do a 40%. Here's my problem with that, is that we're in mid-club. So are you doing 40% of your mid club, or are you doing 40% of your max club? So one of the things that they don't talk, a lot of those guys don't talk about, is like where you're at in your club. So if you're doing a mid club number, versus a max number, it's going to be totally different if you do the 40%. So if you do a max number on that hole versus a mid number, you're already doing 20%. And so I've been adding on 10 because I'm trying to work that number. So if I do a 20%, I'm basically at a 40 if I was at mid club. See how the math works there? It's all jacked up. So when people tell you you're supposed to do, like, I'm not telling you that you're supposed to do an adjustment. I'm saying for where I'm hitting with my club and the numbers that I'm using, that, are we on this hole or were we are not on this hole. Make sure I don't. I've had that happen before where I forfeited it and I was actually on the hole. So let's go. I'm going to go. I want to work this math out because this is good for me too. So let's take. Okay, I was using a Viper, and my Viper is 1.9 per ring at max. At max. So long iron, short iron, long iron, short iron's 7.5. Long iron is 0.5, wood is 0.25, so it'd be 1.9 times 1.25. So it should be somewhere in the neighborhood of about, possibly about 2.4 per ring at mid. So you're at 2.4 per ring at mid club. So where we're hitting at here, the red line, the back red line's here, and the front the max red line is here. This is your minimum club, this is your max club, and where you're hitting here, you're towards mid club. So with a 1 power ball, you're a mid club. So theoretically, if we're playing by how our clubs work, you should be hitting a 2.4 per ring. So if you hit 2.4 per ring, and we had a 3/6 wind right there, and we added on times 1.4, so we added on 4, so 10% of 0.36 is, or 0.36 times 4 is 1.44, so that put us at 5, that put us at 6.04 wind. Okay, so if we added on 40% to the 3.6, then we would have to adjust for a 6.4 wind. Is that correct? That's correct. Yeah, so 10% is 0.36. 0.36 times 4 equals plus 3.6. No, that's 5.4. Excuse me, 5.4. My bad. Obviously, I can't add today. So 5.4 wind. So if we take the raw numbers and we go, okay, we had a 3.6, and we're going to add on 40%, that's going to give us 5.04 wind. So we're going to adjust for 5 wind. Are you adjusting for 5 wind at mid club, which is only going to be about 2 rings? Or are you adjusting for the 40% at max club, which is now going to be 2 rings is going to give you 4, so you're going to be at like 2.5, 2 2/3 rings. So the difference is 2/3 of a ring. So that's gonna be different. So where are we adjusting the 40% for? Because we're not in max club. So I found that on this hole, it's better if, so I mean the math will work out the same. So if I did a max number here at 1.9 and I added on 20%, that would be 3.8. With this number right here, that's basically that's 4. That's 8. That's 4.4 wind. So if I had a 4.4 wind that I was adjusting out for, that would be 2 rings, and that would leave me 6. So that'd be about 2 1/3 rings. 2 1/3. So if I did the same wind adjustment, I was at 4.4. If I did 0.36, so I'd be at 5. I'm at 2.4. I'm at 2 rings. So it's going to be different. So I'm never sure when I watch other people's videos and they go, oh, yeah, you always add on 20% or you always add on 40%. 40% from where? I'm in mid club here. So if I add on 40% at mid club, it's going to be different. I'm going to be moving at 2 rings or 2.5 rings versus 2 2/3. So it's not going to put me in the same spot. So this is why when you're doing the wind stuff, if you watch my videos throughout the week when I'm doing these, and I know that math seems confusing, but I know if you watch my videos when I'm doing this, my first goal is to figure out what club and what ball to bring. That's goal number one. Number two is distance. Okay. I want to make sure that I've got the right club and the right ball. Okay, that's the club and the ball I want to bring. And now I want to make sure that whatever I'm hitting, whatever shot I'm taking, that I'm getting the right distance. And I like to work on one thing at a time. I don't like to try and adjust 5 things at the same time or 3 things at the same time. I want to work on one thing at a time. First, what club and ball am I going to bring? Number 2, I've got to get my distance down. Once I get my distance down, then my goal is to start hitting perfect shot. And you hit perfect shot, and I do a max wind adjustment. So when I start hitting the max wind adjustment, then I hit perfect, then I can look at that shot and I can diagnose it. Like, hey, the wind was blowing this way, and I did a max wind adjustment, and I ended up over here on the left. Then I know that I didn't pull out enough wind, so I maybe need to add on wind. Or I did a max wind adjustment, and I ended up over here to the right. Maybe I took off too much wind. Where am I at in my club? Am I in mid club? Maybe I don't need to take out so much wind. But you have to dial these things in for yourself. So what I think a lot of people do is they get notes from somebody, or they scout these holes at the beginning of the week. And if you watch my videos, I'm constantly progressing my notes. So I'm trying to learn as the week goes on, and I'm trying to progress those notes. I don't write my notes down and then go, that's what I'm shooting. My notes, I've got my original pencil notes that I wrote here, and then I've taken pens for every round, and I've crossed out stuff, and I've put stuff on there, and I'm trying to get these holes dialed in when I work towards the weekend round. And you have to do the same thing. You have to take what, in my goal when I'm demoing shots for you guys, is I'm trying to give you guys options as far as like, this is a great way to come at this hole. This is your best chance. And not only is it your best chance, but here's how to do it the safest way. Because I like to play this game, I want to play the consistent shot. I don't want to do those shots that are very inconsistent. I want to try and figure out that shot that's like, if you do this shot and you do it consistent, then you can start to really dial those numbers in, and you can work it like artillery, and you can really start to dial it in. But you've got to be willing to move off of your notes as the week goes on. Otherwise, if you stick with the same numbers and you're like, hey, I'm always off, well, if you don't make any changes, guess what? You're always going to be off. So you got to be willing as the week goes on to progress your notes for your game, your clubs, and the balls that you're bringing to the hole. All right, sorry about that. That was a big long, I was on a pedestal or a soapbox right there. But this is really important stuff to figure out these wind adjustments, because I know that there's a wind adjustment on here, but how we take that wind adjustment is going to be different. So you got to think outside the box when you're looking at those, and think critically on how that stuff works. All right. It's probably already restarted. No. All right. That was hole number 2 of the silver. Oh, it did restart. That was hole number 2 of the Silver State Tournament in the opening round of the Rookie Division. Thanks for watching.